Hello, everyone, and welcome to the American Scouser podcast. Monday night, we are back in action. We went and grabbed Bickler from Michigan. So, all three of us are back in action over here. I am your host, Timuchin, as always, in Chicago over here. Weather is all over the place. It's springtime, but I think summer is on the way. You get some hints, and then you get some cold and stuff like that. But I'll be honest, there were a couple of days, especially when I'm refereeing out there, that I would rather have it cool than get my head fried out there in the sun. So I'm not minding it too much. Bickler is back in action. Bickler, what's happened?
Yeah, man, good to be back. Thanks for having me. I don't know, guys. It's Monday and I'm tired already. In preparation for becoming Canadian soon, I have been watching a lot of playoff hockey. Let me tell you, it is not disappointed. For anybody out there wanting to dip your toes into NHL hockey, the time is now. Back-to-back game sevens, one in the third period with like minutes left with 2 goals down, and the other one last night in double overtime. So for those looking to venture into other sports opportunities, it's a great time to do it.
I actually like hockey in the sense that I feel like hockey has a lot of similarities with football. Like when you play it, and I remember when I actually have trophies over here. I probably talked about this before, but back in the day when we were doing, when I had a lot more time before kids and everything, I was in these like NHL leagues for like EA Sports. We were actually pretty big deals. EA Sports sent us free games and stuff like that. We were like sponsored by them and everything. And it was all these guys, and we literally played every freaking single game in the season. And what is it, like 80 or whatever the hell they play? I had this much time back in the day. Good old times. And then I actually won, and these guys were so pissed because they were all like, a lot of them were Canadian, and they were actually hardcore hockey guys. But I felt like it suited me so well because you could set the triangles and all that kind of stuff. So good times. Let's do a hockey live watch along over here, Gally.
Before you were beating down young American children, you were beating down the hopes and dreams of young Canadians. I love the idea of you talking trash as Wayne Gretzky playing for like 89 LA Kings in Hockey Live 95. That to me is honestly one of the great things. But Bickler's not wrong. The hockey playoffs have been great. Last night's matchup between Winnipeg Jets and was it St. Louis Blues was outstanding. Winnipeg tying it with 3 seconds left and then winning it in double overtime. You can't make that shit up. Like literally St. Louis was 3 seconds away from advancing to the conference finals on the road in Canada, which doesn't happen for American teams to win in Canada on the road in a game 7. And with 3 seconds left, their hearts were ripped out from under them. And you know as well as I do, the moment that happened, every one of them players knew it's going to be a long trip through customs.
Not to turn this into a hockey podcast, but I had a single game parlay where I had the Jets in over 5 goals total for the entire game. And so going into that third period, I was like, well, unless I can hope for some fun and just hope it's a good game. So yeah, when that hit, I was just like, all right, time to call the night.
I mean, the only problem I have is, man, and that's the problem with American sports. It is so difficult to sit down and watch one game unless I'm multitasking with a laptop and doing other things and stuff like that. I just can't sit through all the commercials. And with hockey, it's almost like 2 freaking Super Bowl halftimes in the middle between the periods and stuff. It takes like freaking forever. So
15-minute intermission seems like a long time when you got 2 of them.
Yeah, I just can't, really warm up to it.
These guys do basically go out there, skate the entire time, sometimes with like missing sternums and like other parts of their bodies not working. Like I remember one time someone was like, man, this hockey player is really tough. And then someone was like, he's not just tough. He ruptured his spleen and finished the third period.
Well, by the way, fun fact, as a guy, as a Turkish dude growing up back home, like you get highlights or you catch like a very rarely like freaking 2 a.m. hockey game and stuff. And I honestly had even more respect for hockey players back then because I did not realize there were different lines. So like not knowing, you'll find it hard to believe ice hockey is not huge in Turkey. So, like you don't know anything about the game. It goes on. It's similar to like American football. They do a 1 yard run. You're like, man, Americans are stupid. What the hell is this game? Like just a bunch of guys fall over each other. But anyway, you're watching that game, and I never understood because we didn't know about the lines and stuff. I'm like, dude, the guy just scored. He's hot. Why are they taking him off? Because like the line he scores, like he's on the sideline, and like the soccer mentality. I'm like, he's hot, man. He just scored. Why are they taking him off the ice? And yeah, so I came over here, figured out the game, started whooping some ass. But it's time for you guys to whoop some ass. That's right. It's trivia time. Music included. Oh, here we go. We're gonna get to that.
We knew this was Baltimore chant. We don't get a Baltimore chant here on American Scouser very often. And I think it might have even been spelled properly. Wow.
Okay, here we go. Let's start with the trivia action first. Get the trivia done. And then, yeah, there'll be a lot of Trent talk. We'll talk a little bit about the Chelsea game as well in terms of, what we learned. Did we learn anything? Did we even try to learn anything? I did initially miss the first half. Now looking back at it, I was like, maybe I was happy I didn't get to watch that live because I don't know what my emotions would be watching it live as opposed to kind of getting the notification over the phone and then just kind of like watching the second half. But let's go with this. So Leeds United and Burnley are getting promoted to the Premier League next season. Now these 4 clubs in the playoff for the third spots: Sheffield United, Sunderland, Coventry City, and Bristol City. Here is your guys' question. Across all league play, because in terms of Bristol City, they never made it to the Premier League, so this is all time. Against which one of those 4 playoff clubs does Liverpool have the worst records based on losing percentage?
Oh, God.
Even like, even doing the typing, Sergi, and the audience can't just like Google enough.
I'm thinking like Sunderland's had the longest run towards the top, right? But Sheffield United had a period of dominance many moons ago.
I'll do the question again. Here's the question. So out of these 4 teams that can possibly come up to the Premier League: Sheffield United, Sunderland, Coventry City, Bristol City.
And the 4 teams are Sheffield United, Sunderland, Coventry, Bristol City.
Keep asking questions. Before you know it, someone will put the answer in the chat.
Yeah, come on.
You guys are just passing the ball in the back.
What are you here for?
Diagonal going.
We've traditionally used the chat as our free phone a friend.
Basically, yeah. It's basically just where you are phone a friending Sergi and Google. Those are the 2 things we're looking for.
Can I call Jamie real quick?
You're just gonna get a whole lot of like Rays of Sunshine.
I'll be like, Jamie, it's only an hour long. Get the answer out. Come on.
Take a guess. You guys have 25% chance of hitting it right.
I'm just going to go out on a limb. I'll go out and say Sheffield United. I don't think it's right, though.
I'm not sure that one's wrong because they did have a period of dominance where they might have won some matches. I was almost going to guess it's either Bristol or Coventry because there's been so few matches played with them that maybe they got themselves a result or 2. So I'll just say Coventry purely because I know it's not Sunderland.
We got Sunderland, we got Sheffield. You guys are guessing these teams, but the correct answer is Bristol City.
Bristol. I knew the only one we didn't guess. You prick.
Bristol City, 36.7 losing percentage against them. And obviously, this is non-Premier League. LFC, if you look at the Premier League matches, Coventry City is the worst losing percentage at 33.3. Then Sheffield, then Sunderland. Obviously, there is no Bristol City involved over there. But this is why we rely on BJ to make these questions for us, because it has the audience in shock, and that's what we're after over here. By the way, sending our best wishes to BJ over here, who was having a procedure done, so that's why he's not in the audience tonight either. So hopefully he's doing well, and hopefully when he listens to this, it will put a smile on his face that you guys got stumped and nobody got the right answer over here. So Agent 57 is all over it. Let's talk a little bit about I don't even know. Is it major news? It was like coming for the last like freaking like 6 months, I think. But it is official in a very awkwardly recorded hostage video. Trent makes it public that he is not coming back and he is leaving. So I think we talked about this a long time, and probably anybody who's listening to us or the shows have a general idea of where we're coming from. So I want to ask like different aspects of this. So Gally, I'll start with you. What do you make of the timing of the announcement? Why make the announcement today? Why not make it last Tuesday? Why not make it next Tuesday? Or why not wait until the end of the season? Are you okay with the timing?
I'm okay with the timing because I think the club had as much to do with the timing as Trent did. I don't think Trent wanted to announce it today. I'm dead serious.
Why would
I've
the
said
club
this before.
want it today, you think?
Because I think the club wants to get in front of it and end it. I think the club wants to put in the manager's hands whether he plays him or not. I think the club wants, with 2-3 matches left, not to be any more questions about are they doing everything they can to keep him. I don't think this player has negotiated under fair pretense in the 6 months you're talking about. And I think the club's been held hostage the whole time. And I think because we were in a title race and because they wanted less distractions, they were okay with it. But I think it got to that point where they won the league last week. They had to play him because Bradley's injuries and not being fit. And I do think the reports about Madrid wanting him in before the start of July meant if the club was going to secure a fee, get anything for him, they put the pressure on him. And if you read the article this weekend in the Echo, and I think it was Ornstein had it as well, was Liverpool told him 2 conditions. If you want to go, we need a fee from Madrid we agree to, and you need to tell the Liverpool supporters before the end of the season, you are leaving. It's not on us. And then we'll negotiate with Madrid. If that doesn't happen, we're not helping you basically escape through the back door the day after the parade and pretend like this never happened. And to be honest, the video, we can get to all that too. It was an embarrassment. It was a joke. If he really wanted to show he cared, he would have had a press conference. He would have stood up to live questions, or he would have had this comments weeks ago or when he was ready to tell it. It does nothing for me personally other than just make me realize I'm sad.
Yeah, I saw this as well. I saw a month ago, and I guess Partho was saying March that he knew, like, you know, he informed Slot, and obviously Slot has been like coy all this time, even then. I mean, like I say, unless you did it earlier, the way it's been handled is horrific. We've been talking about it for some time. I guess the thing is, Bickler, if I was talking to Matthias this morning, I felt like if it was done right after the Tottenham game, while everybody is still kind of drunk and hungover, it would go like a lot smoother than after the Chelsea game, where he did not have a good game to boot on top of it. But it would have been like a lot better timing either then or after the Palace game, as opposed to somewhere in the middle, unless, kind of like what Gally is saying, the club says, well, 2 weeks over here, let's get this out of the way so we can have a proper parade, because judging by the reaction online, it's not going to be pretty, and it's a lot more stronger. When you read all these posts right now on social media, from what I've noticed at least, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but what I notice is, especially over here, for example, in the US, there's a lot of people telling each other what YNWA means and all that kind of stuff and all that, right? And then there are people like Agent 57 over here, who is, I think he said he's a local lad. And so those guys are definitely taking it a lot more to the hate level than anything else. So do you think it will be even out of the way, Bickler, when we talk about the timing of this thing?
I gotta be honest with you,
are going to be at that game. And
yeah, I personally don't think the timing really would have affected it. Maybe slightly. I don't think from an optics standpoint it would have mattered this much, because the damage has already been done at this point. From an optics standpoint, for both local and international people, and I think the response and the reaction to Trent is deeply personal. Like, I think you have people that genuinely feel like this guy gave everything he could to this club for his entire career, emptied everything out, helped this club win everything, doesn't owe the club or the fans anything, and can move where he wants to move and have that experience to fulfill his career if he wants to, and that's his right. I don't agree with that for a number of reasons, but I completely understand why people have that opinion. You have other people who think he's a traitor, right? You know, because he's leaving Liverpool, and I understand that. I think at the end of the day, when you have a local kid come up and say the things that he said coming up and continue to say them all the way up until the final hour, I think that local people are going to feel like when you're leaving, you're not leaving for a career opportunity or to expand your experiences. You're leaving because you think that you're no longer want to be a part of that community or you're too good for that community. That's how it feels. So like this word betrayal, I think is a really, really real feeling for people that are local, and how it feels to have somebody walk on you in the prime of their career to another club when your club is one of the best in the world. So I think that's totally justifiable. Where I come in with this in terms of the timing and stuff is like my issue with this whole thing in general is that, like, to me, you can say all those things and you can make this move, right? If you want to make it for your career. But when you show up for over a year and look disinterested and disconnected and you don't have transparency with anybody, you don't get to have the luxury of people like saying, hey, thank you for your service. Because to me, he does owe the club stuff. The club took a gamble on the tactical misfit teenager and built a program around him that won trophies. I mean, that's partly on this, you know, the manager, it's partly on the club and the system he came up in. For the fans, this is a sport and you're making ludicrous amount of money on an entertainment. And you have people that have been loyal and stuck by you when, like, you know, maybe you had bad games. Maybe you didn't track back. Maybe you didn't see the far post runner. Maybe you didn't feel like coming back anyway. And we still clapped him off the pitch every single week. So in my opinion, yeah, you do owe the club, and yeah, you do owe the supporters, and you owe a lot more than that sad video where he looked just completely vacant. He looked emotionally vacant. And my problem with any of this stuff is anytime Trent has spoken, which has been really, really few, and that's part of my problem, is the lack of like communication around this. But when he has, it's been all about Trent. Not one time has he acknowledged the supporters in this thing or the club. And like when he sat, like even that video was released, it was like, this has been the hardest decision I've ever had. It didn't, like, you know how far it would have gone if he would have just said, I understand people are not going to like this move, and I understand it's going to hurt some people me leaving. But this is what I genuinely feel like is my best interest and why. And thank the supporters in a heartfelt, genuine way. People value authenticity, and he hasn't given us any of it in the last 2 years.
And I think that's the thing. Like, he hasn't given it throughout this entire process. Whereas guys that I mean, I don't know, a year and a half ago, if we sat down here, which we probably did, and evaluated who will approach it, how this contract negotiation and stuff like that, you within the two pros, the older guys who don't have as strong of a connection to Liverpool would have handled it more businesslike. And the young local lad would handle it with more emotion and care about the city and the club and stuff. And somehow, Gally, it has been the complete reverse. Whereas those two guys kept saying, I want to be here, but we'll see what happens. Kept it professional. It's a bottom line business. It is a still career. I get all that kind of stuff. But at least they said, nope, I want to be here. We'll see what happens. But that's the ultimate goal. We're focusing on this and stuff like that. And honestly, I'll argue that, you know, when we look at Trent and Trent is disinterested and stuff like that, I would argue that it's the same freaking Trent. Now we're looking at it a bit more closer, and I think that's the invisible shield of protection kind of like went away, like the Jedi that he would use, like, I'm a Scouser, I don't have to defend, kind of a thing. I think that kind of like we started analyzing a bit more and noticed that, yeah, he's kind of like going through the motion. But I think it has been, at the end of the day, the anger comes from the approach more than the action itself, probably, Gally.
Yeah, I do think that's the case. I understand what people are doing, right? Everyone is just trying to twist themselves up to make sense of this. Why would a kid who grew up in the shadows handle it this way? let alone leave, to Paul's point, right? Like, why would you leave this way, and why would you leave now and leave for that? Like, what's happening there isn't a better footballing project. That's my problem. This, and I'm going to get killed for this, and God knows I get killed all over our social media place. So someone clip this comment, put it out somewhere, and people in England will destroy the American with no brain. Everyone killed Raheem Sterling and booed him for years after he left. Truth of the matter is, Raheem Sterling made the right decision at the time for his career. He might have had bad guidance to why he did it, but he went to what was an up-and-coming footballing side in City. They'd only won the one Premier League title and the second under Pellegrino before he went there with Pep. He got coached up by the best coach in the world instead of having Brendan Rodgers waste him as like a wide-playing winger who played differently. He gave him a platform to become a world-class player. That's what he did, whether we like it or not. We boo him every time he touches the pitch, every time he touches the ball. Yet that little punk secured this club $55 million that went and reinvested into great players. That led to Coutinho getting sold and led to Suarez getting sold. So for all the shit those guys got, and all three of them are kind of in their own way, they're arguably the financial money that came into this club. And we love to make fun of Harry Kane, the mouth breather, and he could have run his contract down twice. He could have forced his move to City, but he didn't. He stuck it out. Spurs didn't need the money. They have the best stadium in the world, bring in enough revenue to buy players every year. Harry Kane made sure they got $100 million for him when he left at 30 years old. And he did that by signing 2 additional contracts he didn't want to sign because he wasn't going to leave this way. And someday Harry Kane will put that Tottenham uniform back on and break records in the Premier League. You know what they're going to do? They're going to sing "He's One of Ours." And they'll probably give him a goddamn parade when he wins his stupid shield next weekend in Germany and he gets his trophy. Because
honestly, he did not leave. I mean, I don't think when he left there was as much of a hatred, and he was leaving a situation where, I mean, that's, I think, what makes it worse. You know, we talk about Sterling, and which, yeah, I don't agree with the whole Sterling take because I think it was more snakish the way he went about it as well. He didn't
what was
open as you said.
He wanted to leave. He made a comment, and then the club secured a record fee at the time for him. A player who, by the way, wasn't worth what City paid.
Yeah, but I mean, anytime you're abandoning the club, Yali, nobody's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, you're great though. You're getting us money," and I don't expect them to.
My point was,
I mean, when you're comparing it, I guess it's different.
My point was his move.
Oh, thanks though, man.
My point was, people that are twisting themselves up sideways try to make it out that Raheem Sterling was hurting his career by leaving Liverpool at the time he did. He told the world, I want to win trophies. I want to do big things. He went on to win every trophy under the sun before Liverpool secured a single one. When Emre Can left and said, I want to win trophies, I got to leave for Juventus, and then we won everything under the sun. I don't remember anyone ever calling him a traitor or telling people he was stupid. He just turned down a bunch of money and left the place he shouldn't have.
But I mean, there's I mean, you're just throwing constant names now.
No,
totally different situations because Emre Can was not getting the money from us, whether he, even if he said, I want to stay here, we're not gonna pay him. He ultimately went for the money, but players don't want to say money, so they say trophies, right? I mean, that was a total different situation. But with Sterling, he talked a lot of shit about the club before he left as well, as you see in the comments and stuff. So that, I mean, he should, trash talk the club to get his way out. So bringing money in return doesn't really do it for me when it comes to Sterling. I mean, I don't want to talk about Sterling anyway. I couldn't give a fuck what he's doing or where he's now rotting at the Arsenal bench. I just don't think you're comparing apples to apples there. It just does not,
The point was about, all I hear is how this is best for his career. And the argument is, if a player angles for a move, the way Torres angled for the move to Chelsea because he felt he needed to win things. He was wrong, but he did win a Champions League there. And he won nothing at Liverpool during his time here. My point about Sterling was he made a career decision, good, bad, or indifferent. It is exactly what Trent is doing right now. People are clouding the fact that we won trophies while he was here. This club is in a great point. He's going to a club that is actually in a worse position than we are today, and kind of hanging on this challenge, experience. He's using all the buzzwords that we've killed the Suarez's and the Coutinhos and the Sterlings for making the same types of move. And I don't know that Trent is leaving this club looking any better off than any of the other three, in my opinion. The only difference is there's no money coming in. That was my point. So I didn't do a good job of explaining.
And here's the thing. I think with those guys, I almost feel like they had an excuse in hand because they could say, at least, I want to go somewhere and win. Whereas for Trent, we can be like, you're freaking winning right here, dude. Like, I don't know what you're talking about over here. I guess my thing is, Bickler, the thing I do not like is, one, I mean, the most of the excuses I've heard for him is, well, he's won everything over here. He wants a new challenge and stuff like that, which is fine and dandy. But don't spend your entire career, including the last 2 years where you're orchestrating this stuff, milking the local lad living his dream stuff, because you are pulling on strings that are actually freaking real, like Agent 57 says in the notes. There are people living there. There were people and kids and adults living their dreams through this guy. He was representing the city on that. You can't milk that all the way and then act like it's not a big thing at all. And now you're like, oh, I just want new challenges, sunshine, Bellingham, roller coasters, and go. I think that's the part that bugs me more than anything else. Because like I say, like Emre Can, in that example, he didn't want to say money. He said trophies and stuff like that. So Trent can't really say trophies because, like Galley's saying, this club is in a better situation, just won the Premier League, can only build on what it's got going. So he is basically using the new experiences, blah, blah, blah kind of a thing. And just like not buying it after you milked the emotional side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all speculate the reason, right? Money, fame, international appeal, beaches, like all these things we can like they probably all factor in. I think the problem is that nobody has sat in Trent's ear and told him the hard truth that he needs to know, which is like he may view himself as a swashbuckling adventurer that just needs to branch out and have a new experience because he's been in Liverpool his whole life. We've watched his career. We've watched him get bounced off the national team and how hard he took that, how long it took to build his confidence back up. If he struggles in those situations, and that wasn't that long ago, if he struggles in those situations in this juncture of his career, moving to the Bernabeu as their new defender is probably not the move that you should make. Because if it doesn't go well right out of the gate, I don't know that he has the resiliency or the mindset to overcome that, let alone the skill set to overcome it. So I think, like, people in his corner aren't being honest with him. All those people are getting on his payroll. So there's probably financial reasons for them not to either. So I think that's the sad part is we all know how this is going to end. If we're like, I mean, we all know how this is going to end, and it's not going to end well for him. And I don't want to come across as somebody who's just being, fresh off a breakup and bitter about it. I just think we all know where this is heading. And, despite how we feel about Trent right now, I don't want to ever see one of our own end like that. So.
Yeah, that's fair. And here's the thing. I mean, Cersei is like, there's something fundamentally wrong with living your dream through a person who doesn't even know you exist. That's not on Trent. It is on Trent when Trent uses it to build a career on. That's why it's on Trent. If you have, if you go around saying like, oh, I'm just a local lad living his dreams, it is on freaking Trent because you're saying that, you're using that to build your brand all these years. You're talking about being the captain of this club and doing this and doing that. So you're basically full of shit. And that's the part that I'm against. And that's why I think somebody in the comments was saying he's the biggest rat of all time. So we bring our new segments introduced by the Prince this morning, the new Ratometer. So, Gally, from 0 to Bruno Fernandes, that's how we're doing our gauge over here. The most rat being Bruno Fernandes from 0. Where do you put, because, I normally have you make pies. No pie on this, just a Ratometer. Where do you put Trent in the Ratometer with Bruno being the hundreds?
So somewhere between Sterling and Bruno. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. You have Sterling at a different spot than everybody else. That's the problem.
No, I put Sterling at the end. My point was more about where his career was going and what they did. But my point is that I'd put him at like slightly more than, a little less than Gary Neville, a little like not Gary Neville level, probably like halfway on the rat scale. So like maybe like Mickey Mouse. I think what it comes down to with him is I hate how he handled it, because I think he could have had everything. I think he could have won all the trophies. And I think he could have left.
Yep.
With people throwing bouquets of flowers and having a parade for him. Like we talked hockey earlier, right? One of the most embarrassing moments ever as a Boston Bruins fan that I am is when the city of Boston decided to have a Stanley Cup parade for Ray Bourque when he won a goddamn cup after demanding a trade to the Avalanche. But you know why he got it? He put 20 years in a city and did everything right. Showed up at the Jimmy Fund clinics, went to all the things, did everything right, and made sure the club got a good return in his trade. Said all the right things, then brought the club home when he won it and said, I want to bring this cup back to Boston and celebrate with him. And they literally gave him a parade in a city for winning in Colorado. That's the kind of losers we have here from a hockey standpoint. That could have happened for Trent. I mean that. He could have, Brian talked about it, got a fee. He could have signed a bumper deal. He could have let him know this was happening ahead of time. He could have spoke to the media. Instead, he did the whole, we're not going to negotiate out in the media, while Mo and Virgil are saying everything they can to try to put pressure on the club to give him a better deal. Trent wanted to be quiet because he didn't want a better deal, because that was only going to make it harder to do what he had decided to do 4 years ago when he signed that deal that was undervalued and under market as far as length goes. Everybody knew it. People have been calling on it. It's unfortunate. He's going to go down as worse than all of them. He's going to go down then worse than Owens, and Owens won a league title with United. That's scary.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, Cersei says he would have made a shit captain, and Alan
100%.
Well, honestly, I mean, here's the thing. I think we had 5 or 6 names before even him as a vice captain, for God's sakes, when we were coming up with names. I know it was at the time, you know, like to keep him around, or like to throw, like, you know, sweeten the deal kind of a thing, or if it was like an emotional side of club, or, you know, like kind of like milking it. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody said, oh, yeah, he'll make a great captain. I mean, Bickler was just talking about it in terms of the guy is not very emotionally sturdy himself. So for him to pick up others in a situation where you need your vice captain to kind of pick up the slack is kind of like a dreamland over there. But, well, I mean, I guess this, hold on, Bickler, I'll ask you the Radometer, because there are people putting him above Neville and stuff like that. So where do you put him?
Like, you know, I was
long for this, by the way. It was just too long. So
no, I was thinking about this while you guys were yammering, and I was just struggling to get anyone above him, because you think about it, he's local. You know, he's local. He didn't secure a fee. Liverpool is the best that they've been in decades. And he engineered this for years out. Like, you know, we've gone back and forth about, like, oh, well, where's the concrete evidence? Where are the facts, right? What we know, the writing is on the wall. Gally kind of touched on this. This was clearly engineered from his last contract forward. That's 4 years out. So to basically lay in the background, knowing what you're doing with no communication, not secure any fee, and then leave when the club's at its peak and try to chew your way out the back door, it's tough to find anyone that would be above that. I mean, I look at the way that Torres went. I look at the way that Coutinho went with a fake back injury. I look at all those, and I think they're still below Trent just based on where the club is at, the fees involved, and how it was done.
I mean, it is my thing, and I think, you know, I was talking about this morning with Mateusz as well. I mean, I find it in some ways very similar to my like childhood club of like Fenerbahce with like Arda Güler, who also went to Real Madrid and stuff like that. That kid was freaking 17 years old, And it was the same exact thing, just loved by the club. He was going to be the future star. He was the thing. I mean, everybody was following. It was like a young god, basically. Everybody is after him and stuff like that. And he did sign the contract. He said, "No, I'm going to make the club money," and he went. And mind you, he's going from Fenerbahce, so he can definitely say, "I'm going there to win trophies on bigger scale and stuff like that." So he's not even leaving Liverpool, who just won the Premier freaking League, and going over there. And right now, he's still, I mean, similar to what you're saying, Gally, with like Kane and stuff like that. People would love to have him back. He's not seen as a traitor. People not like calling him a piece of shit and all that kind of stuff. And he has brought this on himself, and I just don't understand. The thing that really gets to me is people are like, "Oh, he's a young kid," but he's not a young kid. He's basically almost like middle age for a soccer player. He's like in his mid-20s over here, and it's his responsibility who he listens to and who he freaking like follows. So basically, he has brought all this on himself. Here's interesting though, and that's why I feel like a lot of the votes for the poll we have going right now, and I'll put the link over there. It is on YouTube. It's on our YouTube page, actually. So if you're by the way, if you're not following us on YouTube, why the hell not? Just give us a thumbs up if you're watching right now, and give us a follow on the channel. But it's odd. We have 16 votes so far. Actually, 21 votes so far on this. Is Trent still a Liverpool legend? And I'm reading some of the explanations behind the yes. I think it's from really nice people like John, for example, who wouldn't hurt a fly. But Gally, I mean, I think we kind of like already answered this question in some ways. But when you leave like that, because when for somebody to be considered a legend, in my book, we're talking about 10, 15, 20 years from now, and we're revisiting him. When you think about Trent 15, 20 years from now, you might remember the corner taken quickly, but you're also going to remember how he left. When we think about that, I was watching a Coutinho video the other day, because this is what I do. It was on YouTube. I fell in a YouTube hole. And when you look at those, you remember some of those goals and what a freaking great player he was. But you watch it kind of like, man, idiots. Ooh, it could have been something totally different. Maybe not, because we wouldn't have Van Dijk and Alisson. That's a different story. But I feel like, Gally, when we look back at Trent, we will remember the corner taken quickly, or maybe as Agent 57 says, we will just rewrite history. Like, Trent wasn't even there. Trent was the ball boy that gave the ball to Milner, and Milner crossed it.
That was really good. I can't come to the grips of like where Serzi goes, and I can see all the comments coming through, and I understand he shares them in our Discord. Every player who won us a title isn't a legend. Legends are earned at any status of any club, any sport, any industry for that matter, in or outside of sports. Legendary status, to your point, Smoochin, you were spot on with your comment in the poll. It's about what you think 10, 20 years from now. Because legends are Kenny Dalglish. And I will raise my hand and say this right now. I have seen some awesome, fine footage film of Kenny Dalglish at his finest. I personally never saw Kenny Dalglish play a live football match on television that I remember. I know I watched some on the Wide World of Sports because they'd be on 3 times a year in America on live TV. And I know I watched it. I can't remember those matches, but I know he's a legend because I know what people who watched him live talk about him, and they talk about him in reverence 20 plus years later. 20 years from now, no one will talk about the corner taken quickly. They'll talk about the night we came back and won 4-0 against Barcelona in a 3-0 tie and made a Champions League final and won our 6th European Cup. People will remember and talk about how Trent left, the way they talk about how McManaman left, how Torres left. I've never heard anyone talk about a single moment of Owens' career at Liverpool other than kind of hitting some big goals and then leaving, not winning the trophies, and winning with other clubs. It's unfortunate. He won't go down as a legend of this club, in my opinion, regardless of how much he won. And Steven Gerrard will always be 2 levels above him. And I think in some ways, maybe it was even like not feeling like he could live up to that shadow, even winning, because he didn't have the personality, to Paul's point, and he didn't have the leadership skills. It feels like he's ready to be a star, but also kind of hide in the shadows instead of being a star in the forefront of like the future of something. And it feels like he's just joining a cool big band instead of like going solo and doing it on his own. Whole lot of analogies. Hopefully one of them hit.
I mean, part of it is, I guess, the definition of legends is what you're looking at when I look at the poll and stuff. Because Partho says like Keegan, McManaman, and Owen, like, have all done it. Like, I do not consider, for example, McManaman or Coutinho legends. I mean, I don't, because then in like 20 years you're gonna have like 15 legends. I don't consider those guys, definitely not Coutinho for one. Not even like McManaman, definitely not Owen anymore, because you can lose your legendary status too, I think, Bickler. Like, when I say a legend is when, and I think this is why it's a good gauge, right? And I've been saying this for freaking months, that this was not a good business decision either for him. For short term, yes, he will get more sign-on money and all that kind of stuff. But in like 20 years down the road, Trent could have been Mr. Liverpool. Anytime you watch a game now, Bickler, we know exactly where Douglas is sitting. We know exactly where Rush is sitting. The camera is always freaking on him. Camera never shows you what the fuck McManaman's doing, or where Coutinho's, which couch Coutinho's watching the game from. But we see those guys. If Stevie G is in the stadium, you know exactly where he's sitting. To me, that's like, is because you're a legend. Trent could have been that guy. If he played for this club another 5-6 years, he would have probably won a lot more the way this team is. And he would have been that guy. And that's why I don't consider him a legend. I don't consider some of those names a legend. But
yeah, the legendary thing's weird.
But go for it.
I think the legendary conversation is weird. I mean, maybe it's just because I have NFL draft burnout and watched Shedeur Sanders get his jersey retired and then hashtag legendary everything and then go in the 5th round of the Browns. So I think it's like all like, it all depends on who's throwing the hashtag up, right? Like, to me, I agree with you. I think the barometer and the nice benchmark is like, what does it look like when they come back to a match, right? Like, they're always showing Gerard when he's back. So I mean, I think that's a good barometer. I kind of agree with you. I don't know. I gotta tell you, I think it's well, there's only 2 off the top of my head fullbacks for this club that I would put in the legendary conversation. Trent's not one of them. So like, I mean, I do think that being a fullback, it makes it harder. I really do, because I mean, there's not a whole lot of fullbacks that you would throw at legendary at it just in general, right? So I think that's part of it. But yeah, I think also when we have this conversation, there's always a tendency to have some pretty severe recency bias, right? Like, because you have no ability to scope of this thing. And I don't think it's going to happen, but let's just say Bradley just turns into an absolute monster, right? If that happens in 3 to 4 years, I think that we look back at Trent probably completely differently. So I think it's always context and history and where you're at in that timeline. I wouldn't put him in the legendary conversation.
Yeah, I mean, like, I like, for example, Jimbo's list. I think that, to me, that's solid. I mean, that is a solid list right there of people that I would definitely agree who are like legends over here. And I do not buy that at all. And people can twist it around to protect Trent. And
he was offered the highest contract in the history of the Premier League for a defensive fullback who can't defend, and he turned it down.
I'm almost glad. I'll be honest. I'm almost relieved. When I woke up, I was like, good. This thing is over, because watching this game this weekend alone, I did not want to see another like 3-4 years of that. And because now we will really watch him. If he changed his mind and signed, that magnifying glass was going to be there. And I'm telling you guys, I've had that magnifying glass. You guys know me for the last year or two. And it's not pretty when you look through that glass in terms of like how that kid played. So I think we're in agreement. I can tell Jimbo and Agent 57 voted because the votes just went more in the no for the question, is he a legend over there? But I mean, it's interesting to hear the different takes, but I think the closer you become to the city, the more the answer is going to be no. My thing, Gally, is, when you go back and watch, because I know what Bickler is saying, the recency thing is definitely a thing. But there are certain players, there are certain things you watch. 10 years from now, you're going to watch Bobby no-look goal, right? It's probably going to leave a smile on your face. You're going to remember the Bobby days, right? You're going to see Mane's goal against Bayern or something like that. I still think it's going to put a smile. I know it's going to put a smile on Serzi's face.
He's smiling. You're just talking about him. You're just talking about Mane, and he's smiling.
So, but I think when you watch, like I said, Coutinho highlight, and I think that's what has going to happen with Trent. Yeah, you might smile, remember in the moment, but you're always going to finish with, man, he played that so bad at the end. Like how it ended was so bad that it's going to sour the entire experience. It's like an aftertaste in a good drink, if you will.
Yeah, listen, it's Cinco de Mayo. It's Cinco de Mayo. It's literally like putting cheap ass tequila in like a great margarita. Like it's no, but it's like there's or like literally putting sour mix into a margarita instead of just like good fresh lime juice. Like something like that you don't need, no one needs, just gives you gut rot at the end of the day. You remember the hangover the next day and you're like, why does my stomach hurt so much? Oh, the fucking sour mix. Like that's what I feel like. Like it's going to be that way. You're going to remember great moments. You're going to remember the young kid making his debut at Manchester United. You're going to remember the 18-year-old. You're going to remember the big hugs. You're going to remember all the great quotes. But if you also are fair and balanced, you're going to remember the last 18 months of deceptively driven, almost PR written quotes preparing for an exit strategy that started and ended with a business decision, in my opinion, ruining a professional legacy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's a legend, but I think his professional legacy at Liverpool was ruined by his professional decision to be more than a footballer. And that's the sunny weather and the clicks and the social media and the allure of Real Madrid. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, hell, last summer when Klopp left, if he forces a move to Madrid, I say, okay, he's not willing to gamble on the new manager. We won the league and got better. Let's be real, people. We are better this year than last year, and we have more resources coming and a better leadership team in place. He's leaving because he doesn't want to be part of this anymore. And I'm being told I'm bitter for that? No, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of hard to defend them, but there are a lot of people. The biggest thing is anytime you criticize them, they're like, I guess people don't know what "you'll never walk alone" means. I mean, you can't punch me in the face and then I'm going to be like, oh, you'll never walk alone as I'm bleeding next to you. I mean, that's not what that means. So let's not take that and then just spread it around the entire world over here. If you kick me in the balls, I'm not going to be doing you a lot of favors. And I think to a lot of, especially local fans, that's how it feels. But I mean, at the end, the good news is nobody's happier than I am. We don't have to talk about freaking contracts anymore. It's all freaking done.
Or poor defending on the right-hand side, just on the left when they play Simicast.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's another. That brings me to this weekend. Real quick, I don't want to go into it too long. Bickler, I mean, did we even learn anything? Do we even care? Konata didn't care because he was still dancing after the game, but is it even fair to judge some of these players based on their performances in these last games? Because, I mean, I don't know. Even Elliott, for example.
I don't know. I think where I separate this, right, is like I don't really care. For me, like I separate performance from effort, and my problem is like was I disappointed in the performance? Yeah, but I was more disappointed in the effort. And maybe that's because everybody's still hungover. I don't know. I think that it is really disingenuous and stupid to look at a Liverpool side that's rotated. I mean, I know there was some starters in there, right? 3 or 4, but like pretty heavily rotated, especially in the midfield. And not expect for there to be some drop off versus a side who's fighting for its life for a Champions League position in this table, right? Yeah. Like Chelsea has every reason to go in there and treat this like a dogfight they have to win. Yeah. And I thought they did that, right? I'm disappointed in players like Jones and players like Elliott, players who needed to come in and have good individual performances to prove that they belong in this side, fighting for a starting 11 position or nailing down a positional depth and role in this side. Because I feel like players like Elliott really are hurting themselves going into the summer and proving that they can be an asset to the side, not as an impact sub, but as truly as a starting 11 piece that you can put in from the start. We're playing matches every 3 games. You can't just use somebody as a rotational sub all the time. At some point, they have to start. And some of these players have to prove that they have the ability to do that. And that's what we're not seeing. And that's what I'm disappointed in.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. I was kind of disappointed seeing, you want to see something more from those guys. But at the same time, I don't know how fair it is to judge when I know some of the performances were poor, Gally, but they're not. I feel like puts Elliott. He's not going to be Szoboszlai, and honestly, Slot really underlined when he was talking about Szoboszlai why he was really going after like Szoboszlai and why Szoboszlai's plays and stuff like that. But I would to be able to judge somebody, Gally, I feel like they should be in the same exact position as the other one is, as opposed to, for example, Elliott's playing with Endo and Jones, as opposed to playing in front of Gravenberch and McAllister, for example. I know it's not going to happen. It's not realistic. I just find it harder to kind of like judge him on that.
I don't disagree, but he's gotten moments this year where he subbed in for Szoboszlai, played in front of Gravenberch and McAllister, and he looked okay. Let's be real. The difference is the ball gets pinged into Szoboszlai from any angle, and it feels like at most times he can keep the ball to stick to him, let alone the running and all the stuff he does. He also links up play.
Yep.
The ball was bouncing off Elliott from all directions, and that wasn't because Endo was trying to do Cruyff turns in the middle of the pitch in the first half and doing step overs, because I did love the moment where Endo decided he was literally going to be like a young Maradona. And I was like, what is going on?
He's like, check this out.
He's like, you didn't let me play all year. You gave me the James Milner treatment. I'll show you. I'll be on that Asian tour. I was most disappointed in Elliott because I was so happy for him to get his first start. And the manager went out of his way to speak about how he earned the start. And honestly, I think Elliott put in about a 3 performance out of 10. He was bad on all fronts. And some people tried to make excuses. The people who want there to be a role for Harvey Elliott, like, he doesn't want to be a 5 to 8 minute impact sub to change a match. He wants to make the World Cup team going to the United States next summer. He's not going to do that at Liverpool. I almost feel like that start yesterday might have been the worst thing for Harvey Elliott's Liverpool career, because I think it laid foundation that it's over. And I think it almost did the similar thing for Kwanzaa. And I know there's talk in here about what will Konate do. Can you sell him at the end of the summer if you don't sign him? I don't want any more players leaving on a free. And Michael Edwards, got fees for Brewster, Ibe, and Solanke that basically just pillaged other teams, which lets you know he ain't letting people go for free, which is why I keep coming back to the fact that if someone offers a good fee for Kwanzaa, they'd be ready to sell him rather than send him out on loan and hope that his value actually decreases. Like, if you get a good fee that you'd accept, I think you take it, but you need replacements for these players. So can we really sign 2 or 3 center backs in one window when you also need to do 4 or 5 others? I don't think you can. I've been saying all along, this is a 3-window full side rebuild. And all Mo and Virgil's contracts did was give you time. Yes, and I think in some ways, I think keeping a Joe Gomez around for another year maybe gives you a little more time. If you can't find a right back that you want to compete with Bradley, you at least have Gomez and Bradley to play, or to play over there. Like, this is going to be very, very strategic. And I just think that Kwanzaa didn't cover himself in glory. Elliott didn't cover himself in glory. I honestly don't think Endo covered himself in glory, but we know what Endo is at this point. Like, Tsimikas, well.
But I think it's like, we talked about this last Monday. I mean, in some ways, we know, and probably Slot knows what these guys are all about. And I don't think, even if they, I mean, he could have been the Japanese Maradona. I don't think it matters. Like one game was going to change Slot's mind. I think, the decisions probably have already been made in terms of what's going to happen with these guys. Parto, man, I just literally wrapped up the other contract situation. Don't get me started on a new one. Give me at least a week so where we don't have to talk contract.
Sell him.
And yeah, if he doesn't sign it, sell him. That's a different story. Yeah. Agent 57 says, yeah, I mean, we do live and die by this. I definitely, no, don't get me wrong. My thing is when people are trying to use it to defend people who criticizing what Trent is doing, you would be getting scolded in some of these groups in the US, Agent 57. They would be hammering you for calling him a rat and stuff like that, because they would tell you, you do not know the meaning of those letters, is what you would get. But speaking of that, by the way, we were talking about it before the show, to show that actually we do know what it means. And when it really matters is I'll have you talk about him, Gally. Obviously you knew the gentleman personally as well. I've seen some like social media posts about him, but I'll have you take it.
Yeah, thank you. We spent a lot of time tonight talking about our emotions and how we're connected, and Trent leaving and what it means. And I think sometimes you need like a real life situation to put in perspective what you bicker about on social media and tweets and chats, right? And WhatsApp groups. So I was lucky enough 3 years ago for the final match. I got to go to Anfield for the first time ever and visit Liverpool. I was there for the Wolves match on the day where we thought we might win the league, and the Palace, or I'm sorry, that Villa blew their lead at City. And in that tour group was a gentleman from Raleigh, North Carolina, named Kevin O'Connor. And Kevin, it's hard for me to even talk about it. He was a good dude. He was a single guy. He came, he had a great time, and he was so much fun. And we've stayed in contact and chatted. And unfortunately, it was announced on Facebook and to our private WhatsApp group that he passed away this week, tragically and unexpectedly. And I think sometimes when you lose someone and you know how much they love this club, he was scheduled to go to Anfield this weekend to see the Arsenal match. And to have that like ripped away from you, let alone what his family lost this week and all of his coworkers, and he was an EMT, and like the outpouring of love for this man is very clear. It came from supporters, it came from his supporters group. There's pictures of him watching like Carolina Hurricanes hockey games and Liverpool games. So he was just a big personality and an even better person. And I just think sometimes when we mourn the loss of a right back, we have to recognize that like real things in this world are happening. And the Liverpool community lost a great supporter, and I lost a friend this week. And, for that, it put perspective for me of what we're really doing. So we can banter and we can laugh and make jokes about each other and point fun. But, hug the person you love, hang out with the people you care about. Next time you go to see a match, if there's the annoying guy who talks a lot like me, or the person who gets overly angry or emotional at your supporters club, just remember why it's special when you win things, just like when you lose things. And I just feel like we have to remember that sometimes. We all talked about remembering this run and what it really meant to us. But ultimately, this is a game, and they fulfill a moment to take 90 minutes to 2 hours of our lives and give us like utopia in some other world. But real life happens. And for that and all the people affected, and Kevin and his family, I miss you, buddy. I wish you made it to the Arsenal. His last message in our group text was 20 exclamation point. And I'm just so goddamn happy he got to see it. And I'm sorry this happened to you, and I'm sorry this happened to your family. And I appreciate everyone in the comments for all their positive sentiment since I made these sentences. And I know I've rambled on. I'm sorry.
Oh no, man. I mean, that's like the important stuff. And honestly, like, yeah, I mean, that's, well, the "you never walk alone" stuff kicks in, not when Trent's does what he does and things like that. But yeah, I mean that's why it's like, this is nice in a way, and this is how we make bonds with this club and everything like that. I mean, we are here. I mean, we put up with Bickler for the sake of this club, for God's sakes. But I mean, like people across the ocean right now talking to us, we're all bonding under the like kind of like the umbrella of this club because we follow something, we believe in something. Not only that, what the club represents, I think more than anything else, it's just not we're rooting for the same team kind of a thing. I think we kind of like all bonded in what the club represents. But yeah, I mean, I read about that on social media. You knew him personally, I did not, but even as it's part of the community, that's what we are. We're kind of like the whole community of like Liverpool fans, especially in the US over here. So yeah, not the ideal way to end it in some ways. In some ways maybe it is the ideal way to end it, because like you were saying, kind of like take care of each other, know each other's value, know the value of the moments, more than anything else, right? Like the winning and stuff like that. Bickler, you're a man of many words. Some final, I know you always love it when I throw it to you at the end. So there's actually like a little clip of this where you're like, I hate it when you guys do this. I'll let you do some parting words.
That you act like you're just casually passing it to me at the end of the show. You only do this in moments that are really tough. So yeah, I mean, I think you guys, just to recap what you guys said, I think this is really important. Like the value of what "You'll Never Walk Alone" means is the most important when we, as a group, experience loss, right? So, and like, I mean, that's more than our players sometimes, right? So I think this is like a great way to come full circle on this pod and remember what's important in terms of like why we follow this club. We follow this club because of the ethos that are dear to this city and Liverpool in this club, both politically, ideologically, and personally, all aligned with what we feel and what we value. So love each other, man, especially hard nowadays in this climate. But always love each other, communicate with each other. And don't end the day. Don't go to bed wishing you would have, said you told somebody you love you, that you love them more, or goodbye, right? So yeah, man. That's it for me.
That's why I threw it to you at the end, because you can really wrap things up over here. But yeah, on that note, thanks a lot. We do appreciate you guys being here in the comments and the likes and all that kind of stuff. So hope you do follow us and join us again in our next show. I'll be on live tomorrow night, actually, with the Premier League panel. Otherwise, if you right by where the poll is actually on the side, you can kind of see our schedule for the week for our live shows and stuff like that. So thanks a lot, everybody. Have an awesome week. Do what Bickler says, and you'll never walk alone that way. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.